So welcome everyone. This is a wonderful afternoon in San Diego here. I'm Silvia Mah and I'm the founder of Hera Fund and also a Hera Angel. And I'm here with Amy Chang. You'll hear more about her later. But wanted to welcome everybody on the call. Suzanne Andrews is also on the call. I'll switch over to her in a little bit. But welcome. This is the Conversations with Angel Investors. And today we're going to be talking about the ins and outs and pros and cons of joining angel networks. So we're really excited to have Amy on board. She's been to many angel networks and has had just a great experience throughout her angel investing process that she can give us some great information there. And we have a great collaboration with WingPact. So Suzanne, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Yes, I'm Suzanne Andrews. I'm a founding partner of WingPact, and we're a group of women who are dedicated to activating more women angel investors. And we've just released the first book for women about angel investing. It's called Impact with Wings: Stories to Inspire and Mobilize Women Angel Investors and Entrepreneurs. And you can get it on Amazon. And
I'm excited to get my copy.
Yeah.
So we're excited. We're going to be talking throughout this session about her book launch that's coming up, the WingPact book launch for Impact with Wings here in San Diego. We're excited to have you come down. So we'll give you more information throughout the time that we're here, but that will be on August 17th next month. So Amy, I would love for you to kind of talk about who you are. That is her, Amy Chang. She is an angel investor. So thank you for being a part here. It's been great to have Amy a part of my angel investing kind of journey. We met last year at the Hera Venture Summit. So it was awesome to have you there and get to know her, and just great collaborations. We've been meeting for coffee a couple times and just talking about our portfolios, what we're doing, what we're finding out what's good, what's bad, what's a challenge, what are good things, celebrating our successes. So thank you for being here, Amy. And do you want to introduce yourself and kind of where you've been in your journey, and see if anybody has any questions, or if Suzanne has any questions. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, I did not expect to become an angel investor. It's something that until 18 months ago, I really had never even thought about. But I found myself in the corporate world for a very long time. I actually was in the corporate world for about 22 years. And one day, a very good friend of mine approached me, and I am a qualified accredited investor, and approached me with an opportunity. And I'd really never thought about it before, but I looked at the opportunity, and it seemed like a good one. And so I decided to make an investment, and that was my first one. And, in a way, it kind of felt like it took some guts. But, when you start to learn more about angel investing, you realize that, one of the best things you can do is actually to create a portfolio of angel investments. And, diversification is key to maximizing your returns. And so as a result, you really start to think like, gosh, maybe I should do more than one, angel investment. And what I realized is that, I went to MBA school over 15 years ago. And, we don't really go to school after that. And so really the primary way that we learn is to learn from other people. And so I would say that networking is just really, really important in terms of learning about angel investing. And, I think angel networks is certainly a way of networking, but I think it's so crucial. And so that's, kind of how I ended up, here where I am today. So I've been working on creating my, personal portfolio of angel investments. I also have to say that, it's been so much fun because, this is definitely a way to really support the San Diego, startup ecosystem. It's really fun to meet all of the founders and see all of the innovation and new ideas and things that people are inventing. And I think that's probably one of the most rewarding parts about being an angel investor as well. And so, that's kind of where I'm at today.
That is awesome. I love how you have fun doing it. You're really excited about the different aspects that you find with different different entrepreneurs. So what's been kind of something that you've liked that has come through? Of course, you have a portfolio of companies, which obviously you like those, but kind of like talk to us a little bit about like that favorite or if you have 2 or 3 of those favorite fun innovations.
You know, the things that I've invested in have been so diverse. You know, some of them are, you know, technology platforms that, you know, make things better and faster and more efficient for businesses. You know, I love those, but some of them are, you know, consumer products. And so, you know, they don't always have to be a technology. And so, you know, there's just really been a lot of diversification, or just a lot of diverse opportunities out there. I can't really name a favorite because I wouldn't want to.
It's like naming your favorite child.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, not a good idea.
I just don't think that's ever. I do have a problem child, but the rest of them are fantastic. But even hopefully the problem child will, you know, take better course of action, and you know, so I'm still even hopeful about the problem child.
Well, I think that one of the things that I've loved about how we've communicated and we've connected a little bit is that even that problem child, I don't need to know who it is. Nope. But how an angel investor, and Suzanne, you can also talk about this too, is that I see you, Amy, as more you come in and do the strategy with that entrepreneur, because it's so lonely at the top. It's so lonely being a CEO or even a small team of a startup. I really love how you take that very kind of like on the ground strategy job description, let's say, as an angel investor. Can you comment on that a little bit? Because I think that's really cool about what you do.
Yeah, I would say most angel investors actually enjoy getting a little bit involved in the companies that they invest in. It's certainly, for me, it's certainly not a requirement. And there are 2 companies that I've invested in that are not here in San Diego. One's in Toronto, another one's in Santa Barbara. And the Santa Barbara one's a Series C. They don't really need my help. But even, you know, the Toronto one, I mean, when I was investing in them and making that decision and going through due diligence, because of my background in investor relations, they actually asked me to help corral the other angel investors and help them get through due diligence. And so there are many, many ways that an investor can, you know, get involved in a company very fruitfully. Obviously, it's easier to get involved if the startup is in your hometown, and I'm always happy to do that. It's not a requirement. Typically, I'll probably meet, you know, once a month and just have coffee with, you know, some of the founders, and you know, but others, you know, they've got a handle on it and they're accelerating growth rapidly. But you know, they might do, for example, one of them is doing a national launch event at the end of July, and I plan to go to that, and I'm really excited about it. I don't think they need my help with it, but it's just great to, you know, show up and see, you know, what a great job they're doing.
That's awesome. Any comments from you, Suzanne, about that?
Well, I think I have a similar experience with my investments, where there's just a range. You know, some I'm really involved in, some I'm hardly involved in at all. It just depends on the relationship and the needs and time availability and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know, Amy, you've done a lot of, we've talked a little bit about how many in your portfolio you've come from a network.
Yes.
And some other ones have not come from a network.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about that process of that angel group or individually. What are the pros and cons of that? I mean,
Sure.
As an angel investor.
I think that if you're going to be an angel investor and take it pretty seriously, right, you have to really think about, how am I going to source these deals? Because on average, the studies show that most angel investors look at anywhere from 30 to 40 opportunities before they settle on one. And so angel investors are actually fairly picky. And so, you know, how do we find those deals? And I would say that there are, you know, a couple of ways that, you know, or actually a handful of ways, but I think networking is probably the most important way that a person can discover these opportunities. And you know, there's multiple ways of networking, right? So some of them are through personal connections and relationships that we already have. Many are through introductions. But I do think angel networks can be a pretty good source of deal flow, especially if you're just getting to know the ecosystem and you don't know too many people. I think angel networks is a place where you can immediately join, or even just show up at some meetings as a guest, check it out, see if you like it, if you're comfortable with the format, if you like the companies that come and pitch. And oftentimes you may discover, you know, I can see a lot of value, and you know, why I would join an angel network. And so I actually, you know, I do see some pretty good companies come through and pitch, but I have to say I've gotten even more out of just the networking from within the angel networks. And so, I can speak pretty well to San Diego. There's so many angel networks all over the country, and many of them have are fabulous organizations. I think in San Diego we have 3 primary ones that I'm engaged with. One is the Keiretsu Forum. Their differentiator is that they have a network of probably 30 to 40 chapters that are even global. And so if you want to see deals that are all over the world, Keiretsu Forum is a possibility and a potential place to go. I've met a lot of great people through that forum, just even from a networking perspective. Have met other angel investors that I really value those relationships. Tech Coast Angels is another very well-known one here in San Diego and all over Southern California. I would guess they may even be one of the largest here in San Diego. They have been very supportive of the ecosystem, and they're constantly trying to improve. I know firsthand that they're trying very hard to even just do better in the due diligence process and make that a very good and efficient process for and a fruitful process for anybody who is able to advance to that stage. So again, I've met a ton of great people from Tech Coast Angels as well. The third is the Wharton Angel Network has a Southern California presence. The nice thing about the Wharton Angels is that they do about 70% of their meetings online. And so that is a very efficient way to go if you travel a lot. I've attended many of their meetings over my computer from a hotel room in another state. And so, for road warriors, that might be a good way to meet people and see companies. And they do have some events too that are in person. And they also sometimes try to have workshops where they bring in speakers and we also learn content from the organization. Now, just so you know, the Wharton Angel Network here in SoCal, you don't actually have to have gone to Wharton, but you do need to be a legit angel investor. So I've actually gotten a lot out of that organization as well. So those are the 3 main ones that I know of. There's also the Angel Capital Association, and if you're a member of one of the other 2 or 3, you're eligible to be a member automatically of ACA, and they have, I think, fabulous content. They put on great webinars and in-person conferences all over the country throughout the year, and so they're another great place to learn. So you can see great companies pitch through all of these organizations as well as many, many others in many other states. But interestingly, I would have to say that I've definitely had some deals come to me just through personal connections that did not come through anyone in an angel network. But on the other hand, I've also had many deals come to me through people who are part of an angel network, and even deals that came to me from people in an angel network but that I'm not a member of. And so I think that the great thing about angel investors in this community is that they are very supportive of entrepreneurs. And so when they're excited about a deal, sometimes they're very happy to make introductions, because at the end of the day, if a company doesn't raise the money that they actually need, then it's very hard for them to be viable. And so when you want to be an investor in a company, you want them to close out their round because you want them to not be underfunded. So I think there's so many good reasons to join the networks.
And the other network here in San Diego is Hera Angels.
Yes,
sorry. We're trying to get you over to the woman's side. No, but we're developing. So it's not that we're giving you some slack there. No, just kidding. So we're Hera Angels is a angel group for female angel investors. And we have ladies who are part of TCA, part of Wharton, part of different types of angel groups. And that's okay. We just want to have that access to capital. Again, you were talking about the deal flow. Deal flow has been really a challenge for some of the angels that are doing it by themselves. So we have the Hera Venture Summit coming up and doing like that. The other 2 that I just learned about this week, one of them I just learned about this week and the other one I knew, is Golden Seeds. So Golden Seeds does have a SoCal chapter in Southern California. They're mostly in Orange County, and they're looking at going up to LA a little bit more. So I went to an LA meeting and an event this week with Golden Seeds SoCal that's led by Kim Kovacs. And then I met with the women at LAVA, which is the LA Venture Association. So they're mostly in LA, and these ladies are amazing. They're so great. They founded this women's group so that they could get different types of deal flow, more diverse deal flow, and they're just great. So those two ladies, those two lady groups, Golden Seeds and Women in Lava, are coming down the Hera Venture Summit. So like, as you said, we're all collaborative, like WingPack, like Hera Angels. All of these angel groups are very collaborative, and we share deals and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they also syndicate together too,
Yep.
because what I've noticed is, for example, if your deal gets through Tech Coast Angels and goes into due diligence, and people decide to write checks, oftentimes Pasadena Angels is willing to come on and also take a look, and some of them may write checks too. So there is a lot of collaboration and syndication.
Yeah, Golden Seeds also mentioned that on the Tuesday event, is that they do a lot of deals with Pasadena Angels. So shout out to them as well. Yeah, I just love that whole part of the networking, not just to get the deal flow, but also to know each other.
Yes.
And to be able to call each other up and say, hey, you know what, I know this deal, or this would be really great for you. So anything else that has come out of that you're like, networking was really great? I know some of your deals came off that way.
Yes. You'd be shocked how deals come. I mean, one of the deals I did was referred to me by my auto mechanic, and so it's a workflow technology that supports the automation and efficiency of auto mechanic shops. And I think auto mechanics are fantastic, because as a woman, when my car breaks down, that's a big problem. So these guys are my heroes. I always root for them to win. And so, I love any product that, helps another small business that's, trying to win in life. And so, but interestingly, it came from my auto mechanic, and he told me that, hey, I'm going to, sell one of my shops, and then I'm going to go work for this company. And so now he's flying around the country, helping them to install their technology in other auto shops. And he also has helped them to open up their East Coast office. And so this is a guy who owns auto mechanic shops, and he's joined a startup company, and now is being a significant part of their leadership team. And that company actually sent him to go take executive MBA classes. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this has been amazing for him. But that was also my way of doing due diligence, right? Because hey, I figure this is a guy who is willing to implement their product in his own shop. My next mechanic who bought his shop also uses the product, and he's implementing it everywhere, and he loves them so much he works for them, right? So that's part of how I do due diligence too, is to get to know these folks and really see if they love the product and it works, and how committed they are. So really, you can find a lot of these things, these opportunities in multiple places. I would say from a networking perspective too, I mean, just one of the best things about it is, sometimes when you're an angel investor, there's a lot of anxiety, because basically what we're doing is we're trying to create our own sort of mutual fund portfolio of investments, right? And so there are times where you wake up in the morning and you think, am I crazy? Because I'm taking my life savings and I'm investing it in startups. And so it is one of the most fun things you can do. But there are moments in time where, you wake up in the morning and you think, am I nuts? I might be a little bit nuts, right? And so just knowing that there's some other nutty people out there too, doing exactly the same thing, but also seeing examples of their success and the exits that they've had, and being able to talk with them and share ideas around, what's a good strategy, what are things that you look out for, what are things that you red flags to you, what are real big positives, just how and where have you found success? I mean, being able to brain share like that is just phenomenally helpful.
Yeah, I love that. And also being empowered by each other's success, being like, when you wake up in the morning, like, oh, I just heard of, another angel investor last week when I met them at this networking event, that they're doing okay, and I'm going to do okay too.
There's also this shared bond too, because sometimes you start to get to know the other investors that have co-invested with you alongside you in some of these opportunities, and it's just you kind of feel like we're a team, and there's this bond because we're all in it together. And so what can we all do to come alongside the founders and help and support them?
That's awesome. And also I think we were talking a little bit about how the entrepreneur should know that we're networking. That, we always tell the entrepreneur, go network and do a demo day, or go and apply here and go to these events and meet with people. Even if you're not pitching, go to the event. And like we have the San Diego MIT Enterprise Forum here in San Diego. We have TCA events. We have Connect events. Connect is an accelerator here in San Diego. All these accelerator events, all of these events that are about startups, there are angel investors there. And I think that that's one thing that we were talking about just last week was like, do really entrepreneurs know that we are there? And I think was it one of your deals came through a demo day or something? I don't know, or that we were talking about a little bit about like networking at a demo day. You saw something or somebody sees something and then they connect and then they invest in that person.
Yeah,
you don't know.
The demo days are very early stage.
Yeah.
I've met more of the investments that I've made have actually come through the pitch events,
Okay,
where
that's what it was.
where it's actually pitching through an angel network. But that being said, I will say that at demo days, you do meet a lot of founders who they're very early stage, but you want to get to know them anyway, because sometimes you might just want to talk to them because you're like, wow, that was an amazing idea, and you just want to be supportive and positive and give them an encouraging word. Sometimes you see something in the demo or the pitch and you might want to let them know, like, hey, if you're trying to attract investment, here are a couple things that you might want to bring up in your next pitch. And the founders are the good founders want information. And they get excited when you give them feedback sometimes, and then that's sometimes how you form relationships. And frankly, for me, networking in advance is another way that I do due diligence, because sometimes there are founders that you choose to track and monitor their progress over the months and months and months and months, because you're looking for them to hit a certain level of traction in which if they do this or that in their next round, I think I would be interested enough to write a check. And so it's also a great idea to network just because we're always doing forward due diligence.
Yeah, I love that. That's what my little notes were, is a pitch event example.
Yeah, so Sylvia, you were saying, ooh, is there a weird echo?
No.
Oh, it sounds like it to me. You were saying that entrepreneurs should know that the angels are networking. Are you saying that as a way of like just encouraging entrepreneurs to get out there and realize that, maybe I'm an entrepreneur and I meet Amy and then she is going to be having coffee with Silvia next week and they might discuss me or whatever. It's like, what is your advice? Put your best foot forward, or just get out there a lot, or just realize that whatever you do, there's going to be ripple effects because the community is tight. Is that kind of what you're?
I think that when we were talking kind of last week, because I do a lot of advice and a lot because I run an accelerator, Hera Labs, that get out there. Go to these events. There will be angel investors. And sometimes entrepreneurs are like, yeah, really? They're going to be there? I'm like, yes, they are going to be there. And so that's why that kind of this conversation about networking, I really loved how Amy was like, look, I do go to these events because I want good deal flow. And then we talk on the angel side of saying, if you want good deal flow, go to these events to find out what are the newest and greatest ideas, who are the founders that are movers and shakers. So if you go to multiple events that are part of, let's say, the startup ecosystem of your city or of your town, then you really can get in front of angel investors. It does truly work. So I kind of want to, whenever I have a good example that Amy and I were talking about, I like kind of just reiterating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
also her point is so interesting that for the angel investor, it's beneficial to join the angel network, not just because you're going to see pitches, but because you're meeting other angels. So again, for an entrepreneur to attend a pitch event, even though they're not pitching, they're just going to tap into that network of angels that are all collaborating together.
I would say that during pitch events or when a company is pitching in front of a network, oftentimes what happens is the company, after they present, has to leave the room, and then the angels confer amongst each other. And many times angels will speak up and say, hey, I actually have personally got to know that person. I've known them for over a year now. I've been tracking their progress, and I believe that they have integrity and character, and that they would treat investor money with just a high degree of responsibility. And so, that's the kind of endorsement that you want to have when you step outside the room as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the only way you can get that is to meet people in advance and get to know them over time.
Yeah, did that answer your question about that?
Yeah, it's just interesting how it's a web and there's all these different ways that it can happen. It's not just one way to get noticed by angels or to find deals. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say, you don't know who's sitting right next to you. Like, especially like even the Hera Venture Summit, you don't know who's sitting right next to you. I mean, Amy and Ellen is part of Wharton Angels. They were sitting in the audience at Hera Venture Summit last year. What about if you were a startup and you sat right next to them? And you had a conversation, and then you go up to Amy or you meet her at an event that is a pitch event that you're trying to pitch your startup, and she goes, hey, I met you at this event. You were sitting right next to me. You were talking about X, Y, and Z. Oh, interesting. Now you're pitching. Oh, that's awesome. What are you doing? So carrying on that conversation is really, really important.
I think another added benefit of the angel networks too, and this is more specifically for the angels, is a lot of the angel networks now are supported by technologies like Gust or Proseeder or Angel List, and so they do use these various technologies. And the nice thing is then you can go see deals from that angel network's sister organizations in other cities. And so if you want to join syndicates or you want to get in on opportunities that aren't necessarily in your hometown, it's a great way to identify them.
Yeah, and have you had any syndication deals in your portfolios?
I personally have. Well, it's interesting because, for example, the company in Toronto that I invested in, it was partially some angels from Keiretsu in San Diego, and then there was some angels from Keiretsu in Toronto, and then there were some angels from Pasadena. And so I don't know if they cobbled that together through their personal connections or if they actually went and pitched everywhere. But at the end of the day, a lot of times the angels end up having to work together because we're all trying to get through due diligence, and we don't want to waste the founder's time, for example, by making them have the same meeting with every single person, right? And so we sometimes do joint due diligence calls, and one of the reasons why we like that is because we like to hear the questions that the other angels ask and take notes from that.
Yeah, that's definitely a pro that we talked about even last week, was that it's the due diligence, the collective knowledge of a group of angels in a network. Due diligence is more efficient and more robust for that startup and for that angel who's working on themselves. So that's definitely a pro. So how do you do due diligence that's when it's not in a network? So let's talk about maybe like a con or something that's like the opposite of what's good within a network.
So, for example, the auto workflow company that they're called Auto Vitals, and they were a Series C, and I was probably the smallest investor that they had. However, I had a call with the CEO. It felt very comfortable about it. He had a very in-depth deck with all the numbers I could ever want. And so I had a good understanding of their metrics and how they work. And I like that. I like that he was data-oriented and metrics-oriented. But probably the other important thing was that he had his lead investor was taking the lead on the due diligence and also on the investor relations. And so I had really good conversations with their lead investor, who's a representative of a family office. And he had a fantastic perspective as well that was extremely helpful. And so that was another way that I did due diligence. And then finally, I actually knew one of the mechanics that ended up going to work for them. And so for me, that it was kind of multiple ways that I did the due diligence. But it gave me great comfort to know that there was a sophisticated investor involved, which was a family office. This was their, they'd done multiple rounds with them. They were doubling down their money, and that they would have a board seat. And so I felt like, my own interests were aligned with theirs, and that, they would help to, sort of monitor the situation.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Any questions that you have, Suzanne, that's come up?
Well, I wonder if you see any cons of angel groups.
Yeah. You know, the only con of an angel group is they're not inexpensive. So, right? It could cost, you know, thousands of dollars to join every year. And so, and I don't mean tens of thousands of dollars, but, you know, that's not inexpensive. But I do think that Wharton SoCal Angels is actually less than 1,000. But I do think that, you know, at the end of the day, it's worth it because we're investing significant money in these companies, and this money is significant to us because, you know, a lot of it we pay taxes on, right? So we had to earn a lot of money in order to have the money to then go and invest. So we worked very hard for this. And if you want to do a great job of getting return on your investment, you have to source deals, you have to network. And so, you know what, this is sort of the cost to play. And, you know, I think it is helpful. And if you're going to make investments, you need to invest in your ability to make good decisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we've seen that the pro was, you know, the deal flow. Mm-hmm. We've seen that the pro is, let's say, like the events that they have. Mm-hmm. What about the education? Because I think that that's one thing that you kind of brought up that kind of got me thinking about, okay, so we need to be more educated. We need to be more equipped to be better angel investors if you're doing it by yourself. Mm-hmm. So have you found that some of the education that you've received maybe through an angel group or more that conversation? I think you're very conversational, so which is really cool. Like you always ask all the questions that you can. So anything about that?
Yeah, just to give you a couple examples, you know, SoCal Wharton Angels, they do make an effort to have some content workshops during the year. The other great one, ACA, Angel Capital Association, I mean, they have monthly webinars on topics that are 100% relevant to angel investors. And, you know, so I've just found those to be very helpful. I mean, I still find my personal rapport with people to be helpful because I'm able to ask very specific questions like, hey, the other day I saw a convertible note that had this feature and it does this, and what are your thoughts on that? Right? And so a lot of times we really do have some very custom questions for each other to share and better understand and learn from. But I do think content is very helpful.
Awesome. And I think that, you know, the content piece of that is important because we really want to always grow as angel investors. And being part of this group, you can ask questions, you can kind of collaborate, and that's very different than being on your own, doing your own due diligence. Do you feel like maybe a con, I'm not saying that it is, but it's like a little bit of groupthink of saying, let's say each angel network focuses in on a certain let's say, industry or certain lens that they have. So can you talk about Keiretsu, TCA, and Wharton Angels, of if they do have a focus, and maybe that might be a con that people don't want to, I don't know, just.
I think that because we're in San Diego, we probably see more life sciences opportunities than average because we have a good, solid biotech community down here. So that's a possibility. It's interesting because, but at the same time, we do see, you know, a diversity of types of companies that come through as well. And so it's, you know, but there are also, you know, some folks at times may feel like there's a herd mentality, right? Where, you know, if 5 people like something, then everybody else likes them too, right? And so, you know, and you know, I think that's a personal choice that, you know, every angel investor has, because, you know, frankly, there are some people in this town who are really smart. And you know what?
Every town.
And when somebody that I know who has a great reputation, who has, you know, been in some winners, right? If they you know, tend to favor someone, or they're very interested in a company and they invite me to take a look, I'm going to take a look.
Yeah.
Right. Because it would be kind of silly if I didn't take a look. And so I do think that we certainly do rely on each other to do a little bit of pre-screening for each other. And, you know, it's because a lot of us have, you know, other jobs too. Right. And so we need to be, very efficient about this as well. And so, hey, if somebody else is better at due diligence than I am, which there certainly are people better at that than me, I'm going to listen to everything that they say. I'm going to read everything that they write. And to some degree, I may even rely on that. So of course, I'm going to read every document for myself. And I'll probably want to have at least 1 or 2 interactions with that founder. But, there are times where I do rely on who I think are very qualified people to just to see what they say about the due diligence that they're doing.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Can I go back to the, you were talking about cons in terms of the membership fees. You said some of the groups have annual membership fees, and then are there also investment minimums?
Yeah, what I have found is I don't know if there may be some that have an investment minimum, like a general expectation that hey, you're going to be somewhat active, right? And so I don't know how closely they hold to that, because I also think that there's not an intention to force you to invest, right? I mean, if you're an individual investor, you don't want to feel pressure to invest in don't feel are very compelling. As far as so that's minimums for angel networks. Did you mean that, or did you mean like minimums for the companies that are soliciting investment?
No, I meant for angel networks, because I know some of the ones that I looked at. I think Keiretsu up here, they have an expectation that you'll do some number of investments. I'm not sure if it's a dollar amount or if it's just a number of investments, but it's interesting what you say is it's maybe more, it's just an expectation, so everybody kind of is on the same page. Nobody's going around tallying up and enforcing and kicking people out. Is that your experience? If you don't meet the...
I have not. I mean, I've been active, but I have not observed any pressure from anyone on me to invest in, certainly not in something that I'm not interested in.
Yeah. So you're official member of all 3 of those angel groups? I'm
an official member of Keiretsu, SoCal, Wharton Angels. I'm not currently a member of TCA. It's because I was getting started and I happened to meet those 2 first. It's certainly not because I don't want to be.
Oh yeah, that was my next question of how did you pick your particular angel groups that you decided to officially join?
I happened to get emails from Keiretsu before any of the others, and so I showed up to a couple of meetings, and I liked them, I liked the people, and so I decided to join, and that was very early on with SoCal Wharton Angels. I actually received an email from them, but it was actually more of an MBA type of event. So I attended, and then I realized, I really like this group and the content that they put on, and then I happened to get to know the coordinator very well, and then I kind of asked, like, hey, I didn't go to Wharton, but I'd really like to join, and so now actually the SoCal Wharton Angel Network, you can join even if you didn't go to Wharton, but we actually think, hey, the more the merrier, right? Because what we're trying to do is to boost the ecosystem by supporting them and making access available for the companies. Regarding TCA, I just didn't know about them as quickly, and I felt like I was starting out as an angel investor. I'm like, okay, 2 is pretty good, but I do have the intention one day of joining them.
And you attend their events and that sort of thing now, or?
I've actually only been to 1 event, but interestingly, I've sat on the other side of the table with TCA. I actually, right now, one of the companies that is going to be in my portfolio, I'm planning to invest in them. I am helping to, they've named me their CEO, and I'm helping them to rebrand and relaunch their product. We're out raising capital right now. And actually this morning, we just went through their TCA general meeting where our company pitched. And we got enough interest to advance into the due diligence phase.
Excellent.
Very excited to go through that next week. So I can tell you that I'm having a good experience with TCA from both perspectives.
Yeah, very interesting. Sylvia, do you mind if I keep asking questions? You know, I always have time.
On that venue of, let's say, the networks, how does WingPact do it so that we know kind of another network how WingPact invests? Well,
WingPact is not an official angel group the way TCA or Karetsu or Golden Seeds is. I mean, we're formed for the purpose of activating new women angels. I would say more of an education group, right? And we wrote a book together and we plan programs. I mean, we talk about maybe having a fund someday, but we're not a group in that format where we always invest together or we have a group deal flow. Now, of course, we're all angel investors and we're all friends, so sometimes we invest in things together, right? And sometimes we don't, but we're not that same kind of angel group. I mean, we are a group of angels, but our charter is just different than groups that are formed for the purpose of screening deals and making investments together.
Yeah, and then on that form, just Hera Angels, just so that everybody knows kind of what we all do.
Oh yeah.
Hera Angels, since we have only been around for about a year or even less than a year, about 6 months, we have a couple of ladies who just became activated through Pipeline Angels, similar to Suzanne. A couple of people have gone through Rising Tide Fund to get the education. Some have gone through female funders program, and some have gone through 37 Angels. And so all of those educational programs have been able to activate some San Diego angels. We have some angels that are part of TCA and other ones that have just been our advocates from the beginning. And we've had our only one dinner that was actually a pitch dinner. So we are going through that due diligence right now, seeing how is the best way to go through it. What are our processes, since we don't have that such a strict process like Tech Coast Angels. So we're going through it right now and seeing what works and what doesn't for us. And we're just excited. We have events like the Hera Fast Pitch at the end of August, and of course the Hera Venture Summit, where we get more women and get more deals in. So, and that's what that networking aspect that we've been talking about this whole time is, that really getting in front of women and getting in front of new innovative ideas. So that I just wanted to give that like 2 little cents. So back to you, Suzanne.
I think that's great to hear. I'm very interested to hear about the Hera Angels, because I think a year ago at the Hera Venture Summit, then it was really, you were really just launching it. So now a year later, it sounds like you have a good number of members and maybe starting on your sort of first round of due diligence projects. Is that kind of where you're at?
We had 3 ladies pitch in January, and it's a long process because we haven't been able to say, okay, this is our process. So we're going through that right now. It seemed like we were very close to one of them closing for one of the angels that would be a startup that I haven't personally invested in before. So it would be kind of just a follow-on funding for this female entrepreneur. But what's really cool is that the Hera Venture Summit allowed for one female entrepreneur to actually get their angel investment and get funded over $100,000. So even these networking events that they do connect, and they do connect entrepreneurs and angel investors, do have outcomes like funding, real funding. It takes a couple of times to meet, like Amy has mentioned. It's like I've met with my portfolio companies many times to do the due diligence, because due diligence, as you said, is not just a checklist. It's about how you feel about them. How do they network with you? How do they communicate? How do they pitch? How do they communicate with other people in that room? So
I think founder credibility is so important to angel investors. Mainly just, can they execute on this, but also their integrity. And one of the only ways you can do due diligence around integrity is to get to know people for a long time.
Yeah, I love that.
I'll be very interested to hear how your process evolves with Hera Fund, just because you're starting from scratch. It's a women's group. You're focused on supporting women, and again, my passion is innovation and business culture. So it'll be very interesting to see, what Hera Fund comes up with in terms of how women want to work together and whether there's similarities and differences. One thing that I heard a statistic quoted to me, I haven't gone and looked it up, but you were talking about the herd mentality sometimes that people see. I heard that there was studies that showed that when men get in a group, they'll change their behavior, but when women get in a group, they don't change their behavior. So their women are less susceptible to that herd mentality. If they thought it was a bad investment before they came in the room, they still think it's a bad investment. Everyone else thinks it's a good investment. They're not necessarily going to invest because all their buddies are. So, it's interesting to see how some of those dynamics maybe play out in different groups with different genders, and maybe how that may or may not affect our returns.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, when I go to angel networking events, oftentimes I'm one of maybe 2 or 3 females in the entire room, and so I don't know if I don't know if we had a mixed group, if anyone would change their behavior. So it'd be interesting to see.
You don't have a statistically significant group in that.
One data point.
She's a pioneer in the being the one.
Once in a while, yeah, it does feel that way.
That's why I love talking to Amy, is that, you're like, well, I was in this meeting and I was the only woman there, but this and this, you hold your own very, very well.
And I think women should.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Well, awesome. And the other thing I noticed about you is, do you talk to everyone about what you do? I mean, that's a fantastic networking technique, and I don't think I would think to mention to my auto mechanic that I was an angel investor. So
yeah, I don't even know how he found out about it.
I mean, sometimes I feel a little shy about letting people know that I'm an angel investor, because then people sort of look at me like, oh, you must be really rich or something. And so I don't necessarily share it, but I think in terms of deal flow and role modeling and all that kind of stuff, it's great to just tell everyone what you're passionate about.
I do think there's a balance that we have to strike, right? Because you don't want, hi, I'm an angel investor, to be your lead sentence, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, the reality is if you're interested in supporting San Diego, our startup ecosystem, and you want to invest in great companies, you have to go out there and meet them. So you also can't be self-conscious at all about letting people know that you are an investor. And so I do think that there's, a mix. My guess is, my auto mechanic, he's the shop owner, and I remember why, because he's a business owner. He was so interested in learning more about business. And so we, struck up a rapport by talking about, business in general. And, he got me to start watching that TV show, The Profit. And so, and he was a big Shark Tank fan. And so, we just would have these kinds of conversations. And that's how, I think that's probably how it came out, because we're just, both excited about what we do.
Yeah. I think that going with that is that, how do we feel comfortable in a group setting, and how do we feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm an angel? One thing I love about going to these ACA summits, and we actually saw each other at the SoCal syndication meeting that they had at UC Irvine at the Cove. Shout out to the Cove. It's an awesome place. At Golden Seed SoCal, and Chick Labs are there. So it's really neat to be able to go to this incubator and I don't know, the first time I went to ACA Summit, I felt like I'm with my tribe. I don't have to say, hey, I'm an angel investor, or, oh, I'm an angel investor. I was able to have great conversations. So that might be another pro that we just found out about networks.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, but the first place that, even though I met Silvia at her own venture, Hera Hub or Hera Lab Venture Summit, the reality is she was very busy that day because she was the host of the entire summit.
A little busy.
I
remember
to talk with her that day. And the first time I really got to know her was actually at the ACA syndication West Coast meeting, which was in Orange County. So it's sort of ironic that I had to drive 75 miles to get to know Silvia a little bit better. But I always had it in my mind that I knew who she was. She was someone that I wanted to get to know better. And I saw an opportunity and definitely went for it.
Yeah. So, and that's probably why, let's see, the Wing Pack does really good, because you guys are a pact of ladies that want to learn from each other, and you guys are all angels. So there's like a baseline of what you guys want to do. Like you said, it's like all the supporting startups and all of that. We all have that as our base.
I would say in Wing Pact, and this may be another pro of some groups, more than others, or groups in general, is we're just supportive of each other, will encourage each other, to reach farther, or will encourage each other. Of course, you can help that startup. You have a lot to bring, or that sort of thing. So that's helpful for us. I had one last question for Amy that I was thinking about, and this comes because I'm passionate, and WingPact is really all about activating new angels. And I think what you said is the way you got involved initially is a friend mentioned it to you. Can you tell me a little bit more about like who the friend was and what happened?
Yeah, I happen to have, been doing well, and a very good friend of mine who I've known for, close to a decade now, approached me and said, "Hey, I'm working on this investment opportunity. I myself am going to be the CFO of that company. We're raising capital funds, and here's what the opportunity is." And this is a person who I've known for a decade. Had actually in his past, he had started and grown and sold 2 businesses on his own. So he was probably one of the smartest people that I know. And so just by chance, he approached me and started talking to me about this opportunity. And I didn't know anything about angel investing, and I was trying to figure out how to deploy my capital anyway. And I can't remember if that was a year. And you know what? I think that was after. It was certainly after. But the stock market in 2007 and 8 was so nutty. I literally felt like on any given day, I might be up or down $10,000 or $20,000. And if that's the case, that does not feel less risky than angel investing. I know it's a very strange perspective to have and a strange way to look at it, but yeah. I literally at that time felt like the stock market is not safer. Not if you do your homework on the startups that you're talking with.
Yeah.
But again, you acknowledge that angel investing is totally risky, and it's even riskier than the stock market. But I can tell you that it doesn't always feel that way, because there are days
right.
where, losing 20 grand is called Tuesday. So
yeah, right.
My friend presented this opportunity, and it was, I knew that, he'd been successful in business. I knew he'd had exits, and I just didn't think that this person is going to waste his time on something that wasn't going to be worthwhile. And, and that's why I say that trust is so important.
Right. And I'm going to suggest that he didn't just happen to mention it to you. I think he probably was thinking carefully about what he was doing, and he thought you would be interested, and he thought you would bring a lot of value to his company. So actually, kudos to him.
All 4 or 5 of the investors right now are actually his friends.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. That is awesome. So we have about 7 more minutes, and do you have any closing, remarks that you would like to do? We've kind of gone through all of the questions that I had about networks and how you were involved with them. Some of them you haven't. You've done your own angel investing, which is awesome in and of itself. So any closing things that you'd like to say?
The thing that I would just say is that there are women out there who've been very successful, and they do have capital that they control, and everybody wants to have a return on their capital, and I would encourage women to at least explore the idea of angel investing. It's especially if they have an appetite for really understanding business and how it works. And I believe that the reason why more women don't do angel investing is because of a lack of confidence to discern what might be a good business prospect. And I would encourage women to go to school or learn or talk to each other or learn the fundamentals.
Have coffee with each other every month.
Or and there are ways to invest slowly or to diversify, or there are companies sometimes that will take a smaller investment than $25,000, and so it's a good way to maybe dip your toe in the water and give it a try, and just consider it and at least explore it, because I think there should be some diversification in your entire portfolio. I mean, what are you going to do? Put it in a bond right now that's paying negative returns? That might not make sense either. So, I'd say I would just encourage women to at least explore and think about it. And if they do, get the support around them to really help teach them.
I love that.
Great.
I love that. And then I'm gonna end up too of saying and again saying about the Hera Venture Summit. I have my little flyer up here, so hopefully there we go. It's the Hera Venture Summit. It's September 17th, 2016. We have Facebook events and Eventbrite. So come join us. It's a whole day on Saturday. Amy will be there. Suzanne will be there. I'll be there. A bunch of angel investors. And again, networking and who's in the crowd, who's there. You never know who you're sitting next to. So that's exciting. And then there are two pre-summit events, and I have them here. I'm trying to get this right, is the Hera Fast Pitch and the book launch. So the book launch is a great collaboration between Suzanne Andrews and her Wing Pact and Hera Fund and the Hera Venture Summit kind of goal and mission. So that will be on Wednesday, August 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. here at Hera Hub, Sorrento Valley. And then our other pre-summit event is our Hera Fast Pitch, and that will be August 31st, and that's for any entrepreneur in San Diego or the Southern California region who wants to pitch their wonderful ideas. We will have 10 ladies pitch that night, 2-minute pitches, and the top 3 will be able to pitch at the Hera Venture Summit. So again, networks, and you don't know who's going to be there. We have angels coming from across the nation to Hera Venture Summit from New York City, from Seattle, hopefully from Tennessee, and SoCal and Arizona. So we're really excited to have ladies coming out to hear from each other, learn from each other, and also hear from these 3 pitching ladies. And we will have a gamified due diligence kind of interactive session during that pitch session. So we're really excited about that. So you have any other mentions, Suzanne?
No, I think you just about covered it. I'm excited to come down to San Diego and finally see Hera Labs for the Impact with Wings San Diego launch on August 17th. And I'll see everybody at the summit also.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you for joining us. And any other things that you would like to say now that you're...
Yeah, I would just like to say one thing.
Okay, good.
Which is I just want to, thank Silvia. She's been a huge proponent in San Diego of startups in general, but also she's been a huge, supporter of female founders, female entrepreneurs, female funders like myself. She's been very encouraging and supportive, but I've also seen her do that for everybody. And so I know that she's a huge supporter of our startup ecosystem here in San Diego in general. And I think it's fantastic. And I just want to thank her for supporting our community.
Thank you so much. And it's just on that same aspect is that Suzanne and I have this great partnership that we're able to do these conversations, these Google Hangouts, and we just keep on going. And we have different tools every single month, and it's been just a great collaboration because we both have that same passion. So thank you again, Suzanne, for always being a part of it, and thanks for joining us, Amy.
Thank you, Silvia.
It's been so great. Yeah, it's like
fun. Yeah.
I know. It's like
Totally
getting coffee conversations online and getting Suzanne in the room, right?
Yes.
Without sans the coffee.
Exactly.
Still, we had a great time today, and thank you so much for joining us. So we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.